Look at that view. This view is what people living in this cave looked at 100,000 years ago in Middle Stone Age along the southern African coastline. How did climate affect behavioral evolution of the people living there? This is one of the questions me and my colleagues are currently working on. We seek to recreate the unknown environments of our ancestors. We all come from Africa. Homo sapiens have existed at least for 300,000 years. However, there is no evidence indicating behavior at that time to be modern. Instead, archaeological evidence suggests that changes in what humans were thinking, how they behaved, and which technology they used only developed more recently between 120 and 50,000 years ago. Much of the evidence for these changes comes from archaeological sites on the southern Cape Coast of South Africa. One such site is Blombos Cave. Here you can actually see inside it during excavation in 2019. We are a huge team of archaeologists, climatologists, psychologists who work together to find out what people were actually eating, thinking back at that time. Archaeologists look at things that people left behind, layer by layer going back in time, as you can see on the picture here on the left. Different layers represent different times when people, for example, changed their daily habits from eating more shellfish, for instance, to using more tools to hunt. These findings tell us about lives of humans in the past. The other picture shows a necklace made out of shell beads, probably used as jewelry, something we might very well do today as well. I'm a climate scientist who reconstructs past changes on land as well as in the ocean at a time when Middle Stone Age people lived in caves across South Africa. We need to understand the environmental context of our ancestors and their ability to adapt to changes in climate conditions. But how do we know how climate changed at that time? At the seafloor, there are layers of mud. It's a natural deposit working as a climate archive. Sand, dust, remains of organisms are transported from the land by rivers and are mixed by sediments from the ocean. Layer by layer on the ocean floor, remains of the past are built up. Here you can actually see a marine sediment core coming up from the ocean. During fieldwork, I go out and collect this ocean mud. By studying the core layer by layer, we recreate climate back in time, just like the archaeologists with their layers through time. We can reconstruct the wetness of the land areas, its vegetation cover, by using geochemical analysis on plant remains and minerals caught in the layers from the seafloor. Finding good archives requires to spend long days and nights working on research ships. Another source of climate information comes from the archaeological sequence itself. Here you can actually see me sampling sediments in Blombos Cave. I use organic material that initially derived from terrestrial plants and trees. These traces of this ancient vegetation is preserved in the cave layers. It tells me about past rainfall and vegetation types around the cave at the time people lived there. We know that Middle Stone Age people collected a range of plants and trees, which they used for fuel, bedding, and consumption. So I compare what I can find in the sediments with what I find in the archaeological material at the same time. This is exciting. It allows me one-to-one testing of when people changed their daily habits compared to when climate changed. Where do we come from? And how did we become who we are today? These are very interesting questions, and to ultimately understand them and how and when Homo sapiens evolved into who we are today and what role climate played, It needs an interdisciplinary team of archaeologists, climatologists, and psychologists. So stay tuned for more exciting results in the coming years.